Justin Trudeau is back in the House today, and he's on his last lifeline. He survived, barely scraped by, I think it was 29 vote difference yesterday for the vote of non-confidence, because not only are the Conservatives advocating for a snap election, but also the Bloc, a couple little independent MPs, but unfortunately no rebel Liberals were there to vote against Trudeau, which is odd because not too long ago, in fact, a few weeks ago, they were ready to basically sign an internal petition to have Trudeau removed as the leader of the Liberal Party. So here you have an opportunity to vote your way out of this, and they chose to hide. Or is it because they were scared? Well, you're going to find out a lot of answers to the questions you may have in today's question period with Justin Trudeau's return to his job. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another video, everybody. Before we get into it, I do want to encourage y'all to hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't already. It does really help grow the channel. And without further ado, let's get into today's extremely heated question period highlights. Oral questions!
This weak Prime Minister has lost control of the borders, lost control of immigration, lost control of spending, debt, and inflation, and now he's lost control of his own cabinet. We've learned in the Globe and Mail today that his finance minister is having her people speak out against him. She wants a large deficit of $40 billion. He, on the other hand, wants an even larger deficit on steroids, bigger than $40 billion. We know that Canadians are going to lose from all this inflation, but which one of those two is going to win?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians lose when the Conservative leader votes against a dental plan for seniors. Canadians lose when he stands against a tax break for all Canadians over the next few months. Canadians lose when he blocks a school food program that's going to save parents $800 on groceries while putting more food in kids' bellies. Every single time the Leader of the Opposition gets up in this House, he stands against supports for Canadians, against growing the economy, against supporting a better future for all Canadians, because he's only in it for himself.
That's right.
He's literally Canada first.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Well, it's not clear that the finance minister is actually in it with him. She said, according to the Globe and Mail, the Prime Minister's office has given internal direction for an aggressive and possibly costly policy agenda that threatens to blow past spending targets she has already publicly stated for the government. She promised the deficit would be capped at $40 billion, acknowledging that if it went over, it would cause even more inflation. That means hungry Canadians lined up at food banks. So once again, will the government meet the minister's promise to keep the deficit under $40 billion?
Yes or no? The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Speaker, while we once again hear the Leader of the Opposition talking down Canada's economy, talking down Canadians, the Bank of Canada, it looks like it's going to be decreasing interest rates once again because inflation is back down within the target range. Mr. Speaker, the Leader of the Opposition is also perplexed because he doesn't let his own MPs speak out on anything that he doesn't stamp and approve. He has people follow them around with tape recorders so that they don't speak to media about anything that he doesn't pre-approve. That's not being Canadians' voices in this place, Mr. Speaker.
No, he doesn't.
You were doing so very well for the first number of questions in terms of members respecting that only one of their colleagues at a time had the floor. I'll ask members to please withhold their comments and let the one member speak and the one member answer. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, this Prime Minister has admitted that deficits drive inflation. His minister admitted the same thing. That's why she said the deficit would not go above $40 billion. That was her guardrail. They weren't going to smash into that guardrail. She's like a bus driver saying she's going to come just short of hitting that $40 billion guardrail. And then some crazy lunatic comes in, grabs the steering wheel, and jerks it sharp to the left through the guardrail. Does he realize there's 41 million Canadians that are going to go off the cliff in that bus?
Wow. Great analogy.
Order. Order. Colleagues, the longer I take to get order in this place, the shorter question period in terms of the number of questions we'll have to ask. I ask for members, please, exercise discipline. The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, while the Leader of the Opposition continues to talk down Canadians and the Canadian economy and indeed Canada, let me once again put it on the record. Canada is the best country in the world. And
It used to be.
Canadians are stepping up, got us through the pandemic. Canadians got us through the challenge of high inflation. Canadians will keep building a positive future for themselves by being there and showing up for each other. Unlike the Leader of the Opposition, who's voted against every measure that has been put on the table to support Canadians over the past years and continues to be in it only for himself.
Greg is trying to take away more questions.
Mr. Speaker, get this.
Boo.
The Conservatives bring in a tax cut for the richest CEOs corporations, costing Canadians
Is he hiding his Rolex again?
$60 billion, but they vote against taking the GST off of home heating and diapers. And the Prime Minister sided with them. Why does the Prime Minister side with the Conservatives and big corporations against working people?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Speaker, we were equally puzzled when the Conservatives voted against a tax break for Canadians for the next few months. People are facing challenges right now, counting their pennies at the grocery store as they try to make ends meet. This Parliament stepped up to deliver a tax break for all Canadians, but the Conservative leader forced his MPs to vote against a tax break for Canadians. So even though he wanders around the country talking about taxes, hanging out with certain questionable diagonal folks, he continues.
Whoa, there he goes again.
The interests of Canadians.
Alors, s'il vous plaît.
Order, please.
We know the Prime Minister has lost control of spending, and now we see he's lost control of his own minister. We have a finance minister who won't tell us what the deficit is, and a Prime Minister who doesn't think about monetary policy, and that seems like a match made in heaven. But then again, maybe not. The Globe and Mail reports that, quote, tensions have risen between the Prime Minister's office and the Finance Minister's department, saying that the current dynamic appears to be similar to what happened with Bill Morneau before he quit. The Prime Minister bullies females, and he bullies finance ministers, and now he's bullying a female finance minister. How much longer is she going to put up with that?
Alors, s'il vous plaît.
Order, please.
Members to take their seats. The Honourable Member from Lakeland, I'll ask her please to not take the floor unless recognized. The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker.
On this side of the House, we are united in working for
That's the Conservatives pissing themselves off. Literally anything but united. There's a literal rebel caucus within the Liberals. What a joke. Are they trying to fool us? You think we're dumb?
The chair has
Shut the hell up.
Stood up for longer than a minute, which would be one question. I'm going to ask members to themselves. The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister and the Minister of Finance from the top, please.
Mr. Speaker, on this side of the House, we are united in working hard for Canada and Canadians. And in fact, Mr. Speaker, the only would-be bullies in this House are directly opposite. But I am very comfortable standing up to them. I look forward, together with my colleagues, to tabling the Fall Economic Statement on Monday in this House. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Order.
It's almost 2025 and she's now doing the fall economic update. Like, that's so funny.
Here to experience that. The honourable member. The honourable member for Thornhill.
So awkward. I don't know why the finance minister takes all of this abuse from the prime minister. She told Canadians that the deficit wouldn't go past $40 billion. That was her own self-imposed guardrail. Now she says everything's fine as her political career collapses, and so does her credibility, all because of this prime minister. 5 senior Liberal veterans and 3 political staffers confirmed to the Globe that the tensions have risen between her office and the PMO over spending. These are the same people who last summer said that she couldn't communicate. We know what the Prime Minister thinks of her, but why does she still have confidence in him?
Yeah! Wow. There you go. Little squeakers standing up.
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker.
Speaker, on this side of the House, we are united. And on this side of the House, we recognize what a privilege it is every single day to work hard for Canada and Canadians and to defend the national interest. That is what we are focused on every single day. And I would urge the MPs opposite to remember, this is a challenging time in Canada and the world. It is not a time for cheap partisan games.
She actually believes her own crap.
It's the finance minister who said over and over again that she would not go over her self-imposed guardrail of a $40 billion deficit. Now the parliamentary budget officer says that's yet another broken Liberal promise. We have no idea who's in the driver's seat anymore. Driving Canadians through that $40 billion guardrail off of a cliff as they pay more in inflationary spending on the backs of struggling Canadians. What we do know is that Canadians ought to take her driver's license away. I can give her another opportunity to prove that she can communicate. She can stand up here and tell us what the deficit is at the moment.
There you go. Why wait till Monday? Just give us a number.
Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, I look forward to tabling the fall economic statement in this House on Monday. And in the fall economic statement, we will show that the government is maintaining its fiscal anchor, specifically reducing the federal debt as a share of the economy over the medium term. In addition, I expect the debt to GDP ratio we projected in the spring budget for fiscal year 23-24 will be met. Canada has the lowest debt to GDP ratio in the G7, the lowest deficit in the G7. This is good news for Canadians.
The spending spree spat between the finance minister and the prime minister has spilled into the public, according to the Globe and Mail. Confirmed, the prime minister forced this finance minister to blow through her $40 billion fiscal guardrail promise, taking Canada's finances off a cliff. And now he wants her to bury the bad news of their deficits in the dark days of December next Monday. How bad is the deficit?
How bad did they wait to the last day, the last hour?
Minister and Minister of Finance. I'll ask the honourable member to please take his seat. The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, I was actually about to ask, are they giving out Christmas presents for alliteration? I mean, we're supposed to be talking about serious issues here. I am, though, glad that the member opposite has spoken about the parliamentary budget officer, because just a few weeks ago, in his independent analysis, the parliamentary budget officer concluded, and I quote, "Current fiscal policy in Canada is sustainable over the long term." That's the conclusion of the PBO that was just cited by the member opposite, and it's good news for Canadians.
The honourable member for Calgary Forest Lawn.
Well, Canadians can't have Christmas because she can't do math. And the Prime Minister controls Canada's finances and forced this finance minister to cover their devastating deficit. The spending tensions between her and the Prime Minister will have her getting the bill no more treatment. And Canadians have to foot the bill for the spending spree separation. We know she already blew through her $40 billion fiscal guardrail promise. But what is the deficit number?
Look at Pierre stands up and faces Trudeau in the eyes between questions.
Mr. Speaker, I do really look forward to tabling the
What's he thinking about? Look at him.
in this House on Monday. And in the fall economic statement on Monday, we will show that the government is maintaining its fiscal
He's out to lunch. He's a space cadet.
specifically reducing the federal debt as a share of the economy over the medium term. In addition, I expect the debt to GDP ratio we projected in the spring budget for fiscal year 23-24 will be met. Canada has the lowest debt to GDP ratio in the G7. We have the lowest deficit, and this is good news for Canada and Canadians.
And not ready for you to talk. Oh, is that a heckler up in the gallery? Yeah, it is. There's a heckler up in the gallery. Everybody's looking up in the gallery.
We saw it expressed in the gallery today. Renters in Canada are facing exploitation.
Wow!
Because of corporate.
Somebody heckled today saying you need to recognize homelessness as a crisis, and she's weaponizing that. Like, I get that that's a good point.
Hearing the question.
But wow, talk about being an opportunistic individual.
It's not for the chair to agree or disagree with the content of the question, but to making sure that it does follow the rules. I'm asking members to please restrain themselves. The honourable member from Port Moody Coquitlam from the top, please.
Canadians are hurting, and we saw it expressed in the gallery today. Renters in Canada are facing exploitation and eviction because of corporate greed.
Yeah, I don't think you're allowed to talk about that, man. Leave it to the NDP to do that. It wasn't the Conservatives. It wasn't the Liberals. It was the freaking greasy NDP. What a joke. And I don't actually think that you're legally allowed to recognize things that have been said, like heckling, because it's not official.
I invite the honourable member to rephrase her question. I just want to remind the member that we should not make reference to what has or has not happened in the galleries.
Boom!
To ensure that Canadians...
See, I could be House Speaker.
Ensure that this behaviour is not...
I could be the House Speaker. Come on, I know the rules.
The honourable member from Port Moody Coquitlam.
Canadians are hurting, and we saw it expressed in the gallery today.
You can't do that. Kick her out, remove her questions, and threaten to cut off her pinky.
Again.
Off her hand and toe. Maybe that's too much. Don't remove a question.
Order. And I hope the honourable member can understand and can hear my voice when I do say that we should not make reference to what has happened in the gallery or not happened in the gallery. And I'll invite the honourable member to rephrase her question for the last time before I move on.
Canadians are hurting, and we saw in Ottawa today that it was expressed around homelessness.
Yes, that's right.
Canada are facing exploitation and eviction because of corporate greed.
Mr. Speaker, the finance minister said that the government would not crash through the deficit guardrail. The Globe reports today that all the Prime Minister's new spending is upending the deficit target and that finance officials view it as unwise and making little sense. Tonight, we vote on $24.8 billion in new spending. So will the finance minister tell us why we should vote for something that upends the deficit target, that is unwise, and that makes little sense?
Yeah.
There you go. Man, he's got a good head on his shoulders. Good common sense.
Prime Minister and Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, I do look forward to tabling the fall economic statement in this House on Monday. And in next week's fall economic statement, we will show that the government is maintaining its fiscal anchor, specifically reducing the federal debt as a share of the economy over the medium term. In addition, I expect that the debt to GDP ratio we projected in the spring budget for fiscal year 23-24 will be met. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Oh my God, her gaslighting, man, is so brutal.
Member for Wellington, Halton Hills.
Mr. Speaker, the Globe also reports that the Finance Minister and the Prime Minister are at odds over all this new spending. It reports that the Prime Minister's office has viewed the Finance Minister as ineffective in communicating, and also stated that a senior Liberal said that the current dynamic appears to be similar to what happened to Bill Morneau before he resigned in 2020. John Turner resigned as Finance Minister in 1975 when he was at odds with the Prime Minister. Simple question. Does the Finance Minister still have confidence in the Prime Minister?
The Honourable...
Oh, the Conservatives are having a grand old time.
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance.
Yes.
He's so proud and so brave.
Order.
Give the fall economic statement then.
Member for Peterborough Kawartha.
According to the Globe and Mail, the Finance Minister herself said the radical Liberal spending risks blowing past her promised fiscal guardrails. So she has a choice. She can break rank and join the Liberal minister graveyard like the former Finance Minister Bill Morneau, or she can abide by this weak Prime Minister and drive Canadians off of a fiscal cliff. Which one?
Order. The Honourable Leader of the Government in the House of Commons.
Mr. Speaker, what we are seeing from the Conservatives is an attempt to distract from the fact that when they have an opportunity to support a tax reduction for Canadians, they actually voted against it, Mr. Speaker. They talk out of one side of their mouth and do the absolute opposite all of the time, Mr. Speaker. On this side of the House, we are absolutely united in our support for Canadians. And over the holidays, we are proud to offer them a GST holiday to make sure that they can have toys and clothing and car seats and diapers at a reduced price for their children, and that's what matters to us. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I'm going to ask the Honourable Member for Barrie Innisfil, please, to not take the floor. The Honourable Member for Peterborough Kawartha.
Mr. Speaker, you can't spend your way out of debt. The fact that the Conservatives have to say that to the Finance Minister speaks volumes to why we have record high usage of food banks in this country. She has a choice today, and everyone knows there's tension. She promised a guardrail of $40 billion, which in itself is outrageous. Bill Morneau, the former Finance Minister, was in the same position, and he wouldn't abide by that weak Prime Minister, and he quit. The question is, will she have the courage to do the same and stand up for Canadians, not that Prime
Minister? The Honourable Leader of the Government in the House of Commons.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the only people who are engaging in bullying tactics in the House are the members of the Conservative Party of Canada. Mr. Speaker, if they truly cared about supporting Canadians through these tough times, they would have voted in favour of the GST tax break over the holidays. But this is par for the course with those members opposite. They cry crocodile tears, but whenever it comes to helping Canadians, they oppose them. Whether it's the school food program that is already going to be supporting 200,000 kids across this country, the Canada Child Benefit that puts up to over $7,000 a year in the pockets of Canadian families, they oppose it. Mr. Speaker, we are united in our support for Canadians, and we will continue to stand up against those.
Oh, God. You're the worst.
The
the NDP Liberal government recklessly pushed through their costly temporary GST tax trick that's going to hurt our small businesses, and they're trying to buy votes with a $250 check. But the finance minister's own department called this over $6 billion spend, quote, fiscally unwise, and described it as making no fiscal economic sense. Because of spending like this, we know that the finance minister is going to blow through her $40.1 billion fiscal guardrail. So will she confirm that her deficit won't be a penny over $46 billion?
The Honourable Minister for Small and Medium-Sized Enterprises.
Mr. Speaker, this is coming from a member whose leader calls our government supports big fat government spending. When it's time to step up, the Conservative Party never steps up to support small businesses. We have cut taxes for small businesses from 11% to 9%, saving small businesses $6.3 billion every single year. We have putting more money back into the pockets of small businesses through our Canada Carbon Rebate. That's $2.5 billion going out to 600,000 small businesses across the country. We will always be there to support them, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Lambton, Kent, Middlesex.
Well, Mr. Speaker, you know Canada is about to be sent over a fiscal cliff when the Liberals can't even do basic math. Mr. Speaker, that's why tensions are rising in the Liberal caucus. The finance minister is as unfit to lead as her boss. Maybe that's why the Prime Minister is making unilateral financial decisions. So will the finance minister continue to go blindly and continue to put Canada decimate our economy, or will she actually show some leadership and stick to her $40 billion fiscal guardrail?
Hear, hear. The Honourable Leader of
$60 billion
in the House of Commons.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, again, on this side of the House, we are putting Canadians first.
That's right.
That is what we have done for the last 9 years in understanding when times are tough, we are there for Canadians. Mr. Speaker, what we hear from Conservative members of Parliament is that when times are tough, they look to take supports away from Canadians, not to be there for them. We will not allow that to happen, Mr. Speaker. We're going to continue to be there for Canadians every step of the way. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
We're so proud of you.
L'honorable député Charlebourg, the Honourable Member from South Shore St. Margaret's.
The Globe and Mail is reporting a big fight between the Prime Minister and the Minister of Finance. They have blown through every deficit target every year, but apparently we ain't seen nothing yet. Just like what happened to the last Finance Minister, the Prime Minister does not care about this Finance Minister breaking her promise that the deficit would not be more than $40 billion. But hey, who cares when the Prime Minister fears for his political life? Simple question. Is the deficit more than $40 billion? Yes or no?
Good question. Come on, Rick. We both know it's like $60 billion.
Order. The Honourable Minister and Leader of the Government in the House of Commons.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, again, what we see from Conservative members of Parliament is their attempt to distract from the fact that when given the opportunity to vote for a tax break for Canadians, they voted against it. They're traveling across the country saying that they're going to cut taxes, but at the very first opportunity to do that, they say no. And Mr. Speaker, this is actually a pattern of behavior because over the past 9 years, when we have brought forward other tax cuts for the middle class or benefits for Canadians, what do, Mr. Speaker? They vote against them. On this side of the House, we're going to stay focused on Canadians and delivering for them in their time of need. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Good job.
For St. Margaret's.
Well, there you have it, a real-life Thelma and Louise. The Prime Minister driving Canadians through the Finance Minister's deficit into the abyss. The Prime Minister is throwing the Finance Minister under the bus. And now, in the Globe and Mail, senior Liberals are throwing the Prime Minister's vote buying under the bus. It truly is hard to imagine a deficit number so bad that even senior Liberals are complaining. So what's the deficit number that is so large that even leaking Liberals are appalled?
Dude, Freeland's talking about what she's ate for lunch. She's not even focusing.
The Honourable Minister of Justice and Attorney General.
Mr. Speaker, I've been listening patiently during this entire question period, and I've heard a lot of attacks of the Minister of Finance. I'll tell you why we support that incredible female leader, because what does she do? She empowers women around this country. How does she do that? She puts in place programs like a Canada child care program.
Get out of your bathtub. All the women are standing up. And Mary Ng, who's accused of Chinese foreign interference.
The Speaker stood up because the honourable member from Peterborough-Kawartha was... I'm going to ask the honourable member from Peterborough-Kawartha, please, to withhold herself while we listen to the honourable minister. The honourable minister... The Honourable Minister of Justice and Attorney General, start from the top.
Mr. Speaker, I've been listening patiently for all of question period about attacks of the current finance minister. I'm going to tell you what a strong female leader looks like. A strong female finance minister empowers women to participate in our economy. How do you do that? You put in place and have the courage to put in place something like a Canada child care program that is
It doesn't even work, dude.
85% women's labour force participation rate in this country. That is an all-time high. That is what a feminist looks like. That is what a great woman leader looks like. That is what a great finance minister looks like. And that's somebody who will stand behind every single day in this chamber.
All the liberal feminists are standing up.
Order.
The Revengers.
The Honourable...
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the end of the video. Let me know what you guys think down below in the comments. Are you optimistic that maybe early 2025 there's going to be an election, or are you kind of defeated and think that it's going to go all the way till October, November 2025? Let me know what you guys think down below in the comments. If you haven't yet already, I'd like to encourage you guys to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. It does really help with the growth, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye for now.